Chapter 16. The floor plan of the palace was delivered to the Druids in before nightfall. Together with it was a parchment containing all the information about the palace. Where her regalia was, the placement and numbers of guards patrolling, the schedule of guards' rotation, an escape route, and a list of strong individuals who could pose a threat to them. Gatria was not in her 100% condition at the moment. With moonlight stones everywhere, her chances to go wild and destroy the kingdom was slim. She had to think of something if she wanted to destroy everything. I only have a few minutes to unleash my essence. That means I must plan my attack. Gatria fell into a deep thought. If it's something quick and destructive, there's only one that I can think of. But could I pull it off? She looked down at her hands. She was not in full capacity. She could feel her essence waning after traversing the barren land and the moonlight stones surrounding her now. It was only thanks to a dozen of druids that she could walk inside the inn, but that didn't mean her essence was recovering. Gatria blinked when she heard Trevin before looking at him. Yes, what are you thinking? Just thinking what kind of attack I should use. Trevin could read the expression on Gatria's face. Just by looking at her, he knew she was planning a large attack that could level the whole kingdom. He knew Gatria. Her power may not be as eye-catching as Queen Solol's flame, but she was just as brutal as the mistress of flame. He would even dare to say that Queen Solol, as destructive as she was less ruthless than Queen Gatria. The battle in Adral was the proof of that. Gatria left blood and death in her wake. She reasoned that it'd be overkill to use her essence and blood of Nadir against the soldiers. But the truth was, she just wanted to brutally slaughter everyone with her blade and kill them with her own hands. Are we destroying the capital? Trevin asked so he could ready himself. Gatria shook her head, surprising Trevin until she added, "We're destroying the whole kingdom." Gatria's face darkened and her eyes became sharp with murderous aura. "I will not let them get away with what they did to me and my people." Trevin just gulped. "It's a good thing I contacted Gabin to send a few Adral warriors to help the commoners cross the barren land, or else there will be chaos outside and inside the capital." Trevin, he blinked. I may not be able to control myself once I have my regalia back. I will probably lose consciousness after running wild. That's why I will leave myself in your care once that happened." Trevin couldn't help but smile. "I will do that without you asking, my queen. I'm your shield, remember? I may not be able to fight and I may always complain, but I'm damn sure I could protect you." Gatria smiled back. "I know." From the small window, Gatria looked outside toward the palace on the hill. Suddenly, the dragon with gold eyes entered her mind. "I wonder what Drago is doing now. How did his investigation go? Has he found the culprit?" Gatria slightly shook her head as if that would erase Drago in her mind, but the opposite happened. "No, I need to focus." There was a knock on Gatria's door. "Your Highness, it's me, Grath." "Enter." Grath stepped inside and reported the result of his investigation. "As we suspected, 80% of the capital's people are nobles and wealthy merchants seeking solace in the only fertile land in the kingdom of Tretera. The commoners are in danger of being kicked out of the capital, while the people in the slums had already been thrown away. According to the intelligence I had gathered, the commoners are fleeing to the port of Ager to escape the kingdom through a ship, but the bridge connecting the inland and the port had been drawn up, so the people are desperately trying to make a boat to cross the ocean and flee to Nail Archipelago." Trevin let out a laugh that sounded a scoff. "I stayed in one of the islands in Nail Archipelago. The ocean between the kingdom of Tretera and Nail may look calm, but sea monsters dwell in their depths. That's why only a big vessel with dozens of flame and wind sorcerers on board traverse the sea. and only one at a time while following a strict schedule. Furthermore, if anyone flies toward the archipelago from Tretera, there's a high chance that they'll die by thunder strike. Once you entered the Nail archipelago boundary, it's dark clouds with lightning and thunder striking down until you reach the port. Not only that, but the sea had been strange these past few decades. The ocean is calm, then in a blink of an eye, humongous waves would suddenly start appearing. That would be Enwin. Gatria was sure of it. Is that why Lord Hackerin and Solil is crossing the ocean using the elves' hidden port in the sacred forest? Trevin nodded. There are still sea monsters there, but few in numbers. Those two could handle it just fine, and they would be traveling inconspicuously, meaning no ports with lots of eyes on them. Trevin leaned back on his wooden seat. The Selim Kingdom is across the ocean from Adral. By boat, it'll take a month of travel. There's no island in between, so we can't directly fly there. Vago won't be able to take it without rest. That's why we must pass the sacred forest, the Ignis Kingdom, and the holy theocracy from here to easily reach the Selim Kingdom. We still have to cross the ocean after that, but it'll only take a few days, and there are islands in between. Agatria looked down hearing that. We could have been in the Selim Kingdom by now if we just went straight to holy theocracy. Trevin shook his head. No, you need your regalia. If we're going to free Queen Astrid, we need you at full power even if there would be moonlight stones there to weaken you. And you're the only one who could heal the Mistress of the Wind. If the information Hackerin told us is true, that Queen Astrid's blood is the reason why the Selim Kingdom is still floating in the sky, she's probably in a worse state than Queen Enwin. Isn't that the reason why you chose to go to the Selim Kingdom even though you hate heights? Gatria sighed and nodded. That, and I want to speak to Astrid first. I need to apologize if only I listened to her. Trevin did not comment on that even though he knew what Gatria was talking about. Maybe he was being biased, but for him, it wasn't Gatria's fault. She just fell in love with a wrong man. The consequences to that were severe, but to put the blame solely on Gatria, he couldn't do that. After a short silence, Grath continued his report, and there are also rumors that's going around the capital. What? Trevin asked while Gatria just looked toward Grath. The rumor started a few weeks ago. It's about the Mistress of Nature, Her Highness Queen Gatria. Grath glanced at Queen Gatria. The rumors say, from the kingdom of Tretera, that only the Mistress of Nature, who was wrongly accused and imprisoned for centuries, could breathe life to the barren land. Few days after that rumor exploded, the palace countered the rumor by spreading that the Mistress of Nature was the reason the land died. Which one did the people believe? Grath had a wry smile. Most commoners believed the former, while nobles believed the latter. There's even a group called Itherleaver that is strongly spreading the rumors and rallying everyone to learn the true history of Azatura. Some had been caught and imprisoned by the kingdom, but they still keep on rallying everyone to doubt the history and search for the truth. Gatria understood Grath's report, but there was one thing that she couldn't comprehend however much she tried. What is a Itherleaver exactly? Trevin shrugged. It's my first time hearing it. Grath had a wry smile as he looked away. It's, supposed to be a combination of Ithurian and Believer. Trevin grimaced. I think I just heard something cringy. Gatria agreed with Trevin, but she couldn't disregard the said group. Do you know where the former rumor started? Grath shook his head. It just spread like wildfire, Your Highness. Trevin and Gatria became silent. Both were lost in thought before Trevin spoke to Grath. You may leave, Grath. Keep your eyes and ears open. We can't be too careful. Yes, Lord Trevin. Igrath bowed to Trevin, then to Gatria before excusing himself. Trevin then stood up and told Gatria, "Rest up, Gatria. I'll go out to check on this. Either leave or group." Trevin grimaced after saying that. Gatria just nodded and Trevin left. Meanwhile, in the palace at the distance, the number of guards on duty was doubled, and they were all given a moonlight stone in a form of a necklace, which was bought by the kingdom from their allied force and just arrived earlier that morning. And along with the moonlight stone was the information that the mistress of nature was on the way to the kingdom's capital. No, she's probably in the capital already. That was why the number of moonlight stones tripled in the whole city. To protect themselves, the regalia would be moved tonight for safekeeping. A maid was cleaning the palace's hallway when she heard the low voice of the captain of the guards, who was slowly walking past her. "It'll be temporarily moved to the treasure's vault for the preparation of the mistress of nature's visit." Then the captain continued walking toward her post, whereas the maid also continued doing her work before going to administrative palace to clean and to pass on the information to one of her kin working at the accounting department. Then from there, the information quickly spread to others, and by afternoon, the information from the palace reached Gatria's group. The next day, the sun had set and 3 individuals stepped out of the Druids' Inn: Gatria, Trevin, and Grath. Then see you later, Grath." Grath bowed to Lord Trevin and Queen Gatria before moving on his own. He had his own task to do. On the other hand, Trevin offered his arm to Gatria, and Gatria immediately held on to it while walking toward an alley. "Trev, I don't like the plan you came up with." Trevin shrugged nonchalantly. "We both don't have a choice. Maybe if there were no moonlight stones around, I would have left everything to you, however. You're not exactly in top shape, so let me do what I can to help." Gatria was still against it. "Trevs, the last time you used that power of your shield, you fell ill, and you had a high fever that Solol had to suck the heat from your body to keep you alive." Trevin smiled. "I'll be fine. I only had a high fever because I'm hot like that." Gatria looked at Trevin flatly. "Don't joke with me when it comes to your safety." Trevin's expression became gentle as he hugged Gatria. "I'll be fine, I promise. I'm different from before. I could control my abilities better now. Promise me you won't overdo it." Trevin earnestly promised before crushing the crystal in his hand. And with its broken shards slowly surrounding him, Trevin started to disappear, leaving Gatria alone in the alley. But the voice of Trevin, who had disappeared, reached Gatria's ear as if he was still in front of her. "Shall we, my queen?" Gatria took a deep breath and nodded. A few seconds later, Gatria also disappeared in the alley. No emotion could be seen in Drago's eyes as he looked at the corpses of his young kins in front of him. He called it corpses, but other than the head without a fang, theirs was nothing left. The scale had been carved out and was treated as an expensive material for armors. The flesh had been taken out and put in a cold container, treating it as a meat delicacy. The blood and organs were preserved on glass jars, and the bones had been cleaned. The dragon younglings were weak and couldn't control their bodies, so they stayed in their dragon form until they reached adulthood and could morph into their humanoid form. After adulthood, it was rare to see a dragon in their dragon form. To let someone see their dragon form in adulthood was a very sacred act to the dragon's race. This. The dragon beside Drago was horrified at the sight, and he felt anger consuming him. How could they do this? Honestly, Drago expected as much. He ventured out from their domain not to save his young kins, but to know what happened to them so he could prevent it from happening again. He knew from the moment the younglings had been captured that there was no chance of them being alive, But to see them like this, to see them butchered this way, a murderous aura seeped out of him. Drago's subordinates who were beside and behind him staggered back after feeling such a ferocious aura from their leader. It was contrary to Drago's calm expression from the outside. Drago was boiling in rage. He wanted the blood of whoever did this to his kin. No, not just the blood. He would return to them what they did to his young kins. He would behead them, skin them alive, chop them up, and put them in containers. Dragons may like fighting amongst themselves for every little thing, but they never had any interest in fighting with other races, especially the weak ones. They keep to their own and lived in their domain, far away from the humans. I guess the humans have forgotten the ruthlessness of the dragons. Slowly, Drago's murderous aura vanished, and he ordered his subordinates to take the corpses of their young kins. Let's return them home and give them a proper burial. But before that, Drago looked up at the ceiling of the basement they were in. Let's show them why dragons are feared since the ancient times. This basement under the inconspicuous-looking house that they had infiltrated was part of the kingdom of Tretera's palace ground. It was far away from the main palace, as if hidden from view, but they were managed by the palace's staff. It was easy to surmise who was behind this. Run wild, Drago told his subordinates. Make them pay. Leaving a few dragons in the basement to take everything home, the rest followed Drago outside the basement and onto the rooftop of the mansion. The dragons who followed Drago were all warriors and ready to annihilate everyone. Their rage over what happened to their younglings were all still in their depths, waiting to be unleashed. Drago faced his warriors and looked at everyone in the eyes before it landed on the warriors' commander, Commander Draga. We will not go home empty-handed. For what they did to us, we shall return it tenfold. All the warriors put their fisted right hand over the center of their chest where they believed their soul resides and bowed to Drago. This was the dragon race's salute, their way of showing respect and accepting the mission they were given. Warriors, Commander Draga's hard and sharp voice reached every dragon's ear on the rooftop. We only have two goals. Destruction and their heads rolling on the ground. Yes, Commander. Commander Draga nodded at the warriors. Then at my command, we will raise hell in the kingdom of Tretera. However, before Commander Draga could give her command, they heard a loud explosion from the main palace. And with their dragon's eyes that could see even at a great distance if they focused, they saw vines. No, they were not vines. They were tree roots, sturdy and large roots crawling and spreading as if they were snakes devouring the palace that had been destroyed after the explosion. Commander Draga's mouth was wide open while watching how the already large roots kept on getting larger and larger until one root was already a size of a large tree trunk. What the? And when the roots reached the bottom, it destroyed the palace's concrete ground, and the roots stabbed into the soil as if setting a foundation for itself. Then, in a few breaths, a tree started growing before everyone's eyes. It continued growing big and tall until it could be described as enormous or gigantic. As the tree grew at a terrifying speed, the city of Ager, the only remaining fertile land in the kingdom of Tretera, was slowly and visibly losing its bountiful land. As if the life of the soil was being sucked by the growing tree, hastening its growth. And underneath that tree, the palace, which had been the longest-standing infrastructure in the kingdom of Tretera and one of their most treasured places, collapsed easily. However, everyone's attention was not on the crushed palace, but at the enormous and gigantic tree that had now stopped growing. Boasting its splendor as the tree's crown, the branch, the foliage, the twig, and the leaf swayed as if dancing in delight when there was no wind to make it so. What a beautiful tree! One of the dragon warriors couldn't help voicing out his thoughts as he looked at the tree with an entranced expression on his face. Who wouldn't be entranced? The green leaves were glistening under the moonlight, casting an ethereal glow on the tree's crown. Commander Draga turned to Drago to ask if her guess about who made the tree was correct, but when he saw him smiling toward the ruined palace, Draga could conclude that it was indeed that person. Who else could grow such a gigantic tree? It was none other than the Krahika of the Temple of Nadi, the fourth blessed queen of Ither and the overseer of Azatura, the sword goddess and the mistress of nature. Her Highness Queen Gatria Valen Balsatra, CECDLIB CC.